Y'all may remember back in November of 2022 when we did our 6th season, we talked about making parents pay for threats. I mentioned about talking to your kids, how you need to be responsible for them, this and this and all. There's one thing I forgot to mention during that episode. That is basically like, that's just basically how, it's basically like this. I mean, you allow your kids to go on Facebook, whatever, and they post what they want to post, but it's the parents' fault for not talking to the kids. I mean, that's why all these school shootings happen in Colorado, Connecticut, Texas, because you parents are there scared of your own kids. I mean, it's like this. I'm not going in Johnny's room. His room is private. That's his privacy. That ain't your child's privacy. That's your house. Do you hear me? That's your house. You pay the rent. You pay for the groceries. You pay the rent. You pay the groceries. You chip it. Like if your son pitches in the light bill, whatever, that's his house. That's his house also. It's your like if he chips in and says, "Mom, want to pitch in," then that's his house. If he doesn't want to pitch in, then you stay here. I mean, other parents, what they would do is just search the kid's room for drugs or anything. I mean, they don't want like, they'll be selling any drugs. I don't want any drugs in my house. I mean, think of everybody hates Chris. I don't want no drug in my house. I mean, if you hear from Steve Harvey, they'll tell you. He'll tell you, like, hey, this is what it was like. But, I mean, you see, when I was growing up and going to school, growing up, you have to go to school like every day. And I was never involved in the school shooting, and I was told I got my things taken away. I got my privileges taken out. I was grounded because I failed to listen. But things we have to remember is something like this. For parents out there, again, I mean, other people say, well, beat your kid's ass, and you want any problems with them. Like we talked about in our spanking episode, it confuses the child and it teaches them nothing. It's confusing to a child. That's why it's child abuse. I mean, these cases of child abuse always happen because the child reports it. I mean, child calls the police because the mom spanked your child, left bruises. Like if a parent leaves bruises on the child, then that's the thing for CPS to talk about, to talk about with the child. But thing here we have to understand is this. If we teach our kids right from wrong, they will learn growing up in the real world that we have to do the right thing. That's all that matters. That way, that's why kids go to school every day too, so that they can be valuable members of this community, or any other community, or the town that you live in. It's like this: go to school every day, learn how to be a member of society and the community. Because, like we talked about in previous episodes, like we talked about truancy, it's like this: when kids don't go to school, everybody loses. That's what one police chief of the public schools says. Everyone loses. If kids don't go to school, everyone loses. I mean, if the parent does not talk to the child about this issue, then they're gonna go out and go do this over again. They go tell their friends like, "Oh well, you could pull the fire alarm." I mean, no one ever got into trouble. I mean, they couldn't find it. But the thing you have to remember is this: we have to learn right from wrong. You may the right things for the right reasons, and sometimes you may do the wrong things for the right reasons. I mean, the child who recorded the teacher got suspended. She did the right thing. She recorded She auto-recorded the teacher interaction, but she broke the school rules, but she did it for the right reason to help out the child. She did the wrong thing, but she did the right reason for it. I'm recommending parents out there, like I said before, you need to make sure you keep an eye on your child. I mean, if you got to install software in the computer, okay, you got to go send them from social media, do so. Monitor what your child posts on social media. If they happen to be the one that's made the threat, you need to take a step further and contact the police. Let them know, hey, my child made a threat on school. I mean, he needs to learn that when you choose to behave, your child needs to learn when you choose to behave, you choose the consequences. It's that simple. Like, hey, I chose to make a threat. I chose the consequence of going to juvie. It's about teaching what's right and what's wrong. That's basically the whole key here. Coming up, Steve Harvey's explanation on kids and privacy. And then a bit later, this kid claimed that this kid claimed that his parents, these parents claimed this kid was a thief in the lie, but for most parents, the solution of dealing with him would be unthinkable. Stay with us. Like we talked about, if you teach your kids right from wrong, they won't end up in jail. Steve Harvey is going to explain right now with some common sense.
I'm trying to figure out which one of my kids is going to make that motherfucking phone call. Because when I get out the goddamn jail, you better know for sure that's the day your ass dies. They'll call the police on me. Ain't that some shit? If you beat your kids' ass more often, you wouldn't have the problems that you're having up at these schools right now. I'm telling you, that's what it is. You see all these kids getting shot in these schools? That's why them kids is shot all up in Colorado. Some punk-ass parent letting that motherfucking kid do whatever he want to do. Talking about, I never just walk in his room. That's his privacy. That ain't his privacy. That's my motherfucking house. He ain't pitching in on the rent. He ain't bought no goddamn groceries. That's my house. You just stay here. Don't you ever motherfucking forget it. I wish I would knock on my boy. I got a 15-year-old. I wish the fuck I would knock on his goddamn door. This how I walk in his room right here. You ain't building a bomb in this motherfucker. My 15-year-old, he a trip too, man. You got a 15-year-old at your house, you know how they get. Especially when they boys. Starting to smell himself. Starting to think he's somebody. Kind of tall, too. He about 6'1" already. I already know I'm going to have some problems out his ass. Because he tall. Motherfucker think I ain't sure about it, but I think he thinking about trying my ass pretty soon. I swear to God, I think he got it on his mind. But I done told the motherfucker, you might be 6'1", but you don't weigh but 125 pounds. Daddy's 6'2", weigh 225. I'ma overpower your motherfucking ass, trust me. You might be quicker, but goddammit, I'm coming. And you can ask the Lord about me. I'm gonna try to kill your motherfucking ass. I swear to God I am. I swear to God. And you know how I know it? Because sometimes I can feel him watching me. Yeah, that's the sign that they're thinking about trying your ass. When you feel him watching, sometimes I'll be in the kitchen cooking, and I can feel him watching me. I know when somebody watching me, because I'm from the projects. So, I'll be in there cooking, And when I catch him looking at me, I give him that up and down look, let him know I don't think he's shit. You got something on your mind, boy? Because see, the biggest mistake I made with him, I sent his ass to a private school. It's the biggest mistake I ever made with my son. But then, I was just trying to give him a better jump on life than the one I had. I just wanted to give him a better shot. That's a mistake. This is his last goddamn year up at that punk-ass private school. This motherfucker going to a public school next year, goddammit. Martin Luther King Junior High. Where the fuck he going? Because I'm tired of this shit. He come in the house all the time. I told him, I said, look, man, you go to the school, you learn your reading, writing, arithmetic, all them skills. Don't bring nothing back to this house. None of that philosophy you done picked up at that punk-ass school. Don't listen to your goddamn teachers with this bullshit, because that ain't how we running it at my house. The other day he come in, I knew he had some shit on his mind. He gonna walk in, you know how they are when they're young, they got something to say, they can't stay still, they be rocking, I'm looking at his ass, so, I try to always talk to him in a way, let him know that I'm open, I'm your father, you can always come to me, But I saw him rocking, so I knew he had some bullshit he wanted to say, so I tried to be open, but I just couldn't help it. I said, motherfucker, what? He gonna tell me this some shit he heard up at the school. He said, Daddy, you can't whoop me no more. He said, from now on, all you can do is ground me. I said, motherfucker, fine. That close enough to the ground for your punk ass? And get the fuck up and clean your room.
We can learn some common sense. That's what it teaches us. I mean, Steve Harvey got some common sense, but I have some common sense. Basically what it is, do what he did. Search the child's room. But try grounding him. Strip away the bedroom. Because like I said before, you're required to do as a parent, by laws of your state, is to provide him a warm, stable, dry place to live. Food, education, and medical care. He doesn't need computers, Xboxes, tablets, laptops, whatever, TVs. All he needs is a room with a bed, a pillow, and a blanket. That's it. One pair of shoes, one pair of shorts, one pair of pants, and 2 pairs of shirts. So you wear one while he's washing the other one. That's called commando parenting. You don't reward bad behavior. That's common sense here. And theory like that, whipping your kids behind, you may do that, but like I said before, if you confuse the child, just do what you think is right. That's all that matters. Alright. His parents claimed he was a thief and a liar. But for most parents, their solution for dealing with him would be unthinkable. Ann Curry with the story with a family feud twisted. Stay with us. If there's one rule at the heart of family life, it's this. No matter what happens, families stick together. If most of us feel we can't trust our families, then who can we trust? As we first told you back in November, this family was in a feud that involved one child, the pair of parents, and a sister which one kid has never seen, which you're about to meet. Because this kid, when he was a teenager, the mother forced her to act like a prison guard. And trying to control him would be the worst. Here's Ann Curry.
It looks like a picture postcard from Middle America. A tranquil place where you might expect family values are still prized. But underneath the pretty pictures lies another story that tests the most profound human relationships. It pits a son against a mother against a grandmother, and parents against the state. It all began with a parent's fear that their teenager was spinning out of control.
That's what I always heard. We can't trust you. We don't trust you.
The lying and manipulating he was so good at it.
Diane Weber, a parent in Omaha, Nebraska, says raising a teenager forced her to act like a prison guard.
The serious stuff was the razor blades and pocket knives.
She says her son Dan was always so untrustworthy that she was reduced to frisking him.
You're giving him a search before he goes to school. Periodically. You don't do anything regularly with Dan or he knows it's coming.
You actually put your hands in his
I put it in the back pocket.
as he was trying to head out the door.
Before he went out the door to the bus.
In addition to razor blades and pocket knives, she said she found these kinds of items she was convinced were stolen. Cigarettes, cigars, lighters, diet pills, and wine, all hidden in his closet. She suspected he was stealing for years, but it wasn't until he was 13 that she caught him. On a day she unexpectedly came home early from work, she saw her husband's car was missing. She sensed immediately that her son had taken it.
I didn't know if he was in the ditch. Killed in a car accident. We live by very busy streets.
She was frantic by the time she got the phone call that told her what happened. Dan had taken his father's car for a ride to Kmart, where he was caught shoplifting chewing gum. Diane and Ken Weber, a highway construction foreman, were disturbed by Dan's attitude when they picked him up.
Like you really didn't think what he did was wrong at all.
Yelling absolutely did no good with Dan. He was blank. He was just numb to anything.
What do parents do when a child misbehaves and shows no remorse? What these parents did is raising questions about whose rights are more important, a parent or a child. The family tried counseling, but the parents say Dan showed little signs of progress. And when he became a teenager, they began to fear the worst.
We just knew he had to get his act together. Before he was going into high school, there was a lot more that he could have gotten involved in high school. That scared us.
He was about to change schools and was going through physical changes as well. His parents saw a boy transform into a young man in just 1 year. What happened to you that made you go, okay, that's it?
I just had enough. I mean, we're talking years and years and years of stuff. And I think I just had it. It's like, why do I have to do this?
What happened next would shock many parents.
I took him in.
Diane says she was exasperated when she made this threat.
If you think you have it so bad here, how would you like to go to a foster home and just see how bad it is?
Dan went to school that day without giving his mother an answer. But when he returned, she says he told her something she will never forget.
That's what I want to do. Go to a foster home. I was just taken aback.
Why'd you let him be the one to decide if in fact that happened? Why let him decide to go to foster care? Why not keep him?
We had made the threat, and you have to go through with it. You can't make idle threats one after another because he knows that's all it's going to be.
Diane took Dan to the Sarpy County Courthouse. She said she had him charged for stealing her car in order to get him into the juvenile court system.
He didn't even want to come home to pack his own bags. Which, I mean, that really flustered me. I mean, how much more rejection can a parent have from a child?
Didn't that hurt?
Yeah, to get him to come by to say goodbye. It hurts. It's hurt.
How can you take your son, your flesh and blood, the child you raised ever since he was born, and give him away to strangers?
We didn't give him away.
Okay, turn him over to strangers.
There was a help. That's what we
But
thought.
you expected that he was going to learn a lesson. So you expected that it wasn't going to be fun for him. How could you do this, Diane?
You would do whatever it took to get your child help.
How long did you think he was going to be in foster care? What was your plan?
Maybe a week.
When Diane returned from the courthouse without Dan, her own mother, Dan's grandmother, confronted her. She said, I gave him away. Just bluntly, I gave him away. She said she never said that she gave him away.
Said it twice. And I'll never forget that.
Dan's grandmother said she quickly left in tears and called his aunt, who found him sitting in an office at social services. If your sister was trying to teach Dan a lesson,
This definitely was not the way to do it.
Dan went home with his aunt for 4 days. When his parents found out, they were furious.
They had coached him all weekend about how horrible we were. And that he would never have to come home.
The Webbers insisted their son come home. but they weren't prepared for his anger about what had happened.
He was horrible. I mean, I've just never seen him like that.
Why wouldn't he be angry, Diane?
Why shouldn't we be angry?
It was actually scary. You know, we'd never, ever seen him like this before.
That night when he came home, he was physically and verbally violent, slamming doors, screaming, yelling. I was terrified.
So terrified of Dan's rage that she believed he would turn to violence.
What were you thinking he might do?
We didn't know.
End up killing. I wasn't, I was never so careful for myself, but that's just, I think, a mother's thing, check on your family. But I didn't know. I really thought that he would do something to Ken. The rage, the anger.
For the next 2 months, Ken and Diane say they tried to work with Dan without any interference from relatives. But then, Diane discovered something she felt was sabotage. Supportive cards from relatives, secretly delivered to Dan by a friend.
And it just was undermining everything we had tried.
Diane had had enough. After another argument, she called social services. Dan said he wanted out too. She dropped him off at the courts again. He was 14 years old. That was the last time Dan and Diane had spoken face to face. That was 3.5 years ago. How could a mother and son have reached such an impasse? The mother tells one story, the son tells another.
My mom said once to me that she would never be able to trust me until I proved her wrong. She never gave me a chance to prove her wrong.
Dan says his mother was always too strict with him, but summers were worse, because while she worked, he stayed home by himself.
And my mom left me a list of chores to do all day. I had to keep the curtains closed. Couldn't answer the door, couldn't answer the phone or talk on the phone.
And you couldn't go out and play with friends?
No.
And nobody came over?
Nope. I didn't have people over. And then one day I found my dad's car keys. So I kind of took off.
And you ended up at Kmart?
I got caught for shoplifting a pack of gum.
What was going through your mind?
I was happy. I was going out and doing what I wanted to do.
This is the first time you did anything wrong?
Pretty much, I feel.
Dan says he bought most of the things his mother says she found in his closet with money from his piggy bank. He says the razor blades were harmless tools for an architecture project at school. And his pocket knife, that was a gift from his father for Boy Scouts.
I got $2 a week for allowance every week. And every week, usually, it went into that piggy bank.
Dan admits acting up when he was younger, but said it was normal teenage stuff.
Yes, in school, I did act goofy and...
Did you have behavioral problems? Did you misbehave?
Occasionally, yes.
Such as
like all little kids do.
Dan Weber has a completely different version of the day his mother threatened to send him away. He says a battle broke out when she searched his pockets and discovered money, which she had forbidden him from taking to school.
It's $2, and she found it, and she pretty much flipped out about that.
What did she do?
She got really angry. I broke one of her rules. She yelled at me, slapped me.
But Dan says he never said he wanted to go to foster care.
I said, I don't know. And I guess she took it as a yes.
Did you possibly say yes?
No.
Why wouldn't you have said yes?
I wouldn't have said yes. It's just not a question you'd ask somebody, especially your own kid. She just did it like nothing, like it didn't mean anything. That's what I thought, that she just didn't want me anymore.
Dan went to a foster home for 3 months and then to Boys Town, a home for troubled children, for a year.
New Citizen Day here at Boys Town.
The young man who his parents say was such a headache not only completed the Boys Town program, but managed to achieve a B-plus average.
It's your first dog.
Now he lives with his grandmother.
She's always been the best person.
But that's not the end of it. Although he left his parents' home years ago, there's someone in that house who he says he really wants to see. When he left their home, she was only 5 months old. But he can't forget her.
He had a picture on his dresser, and everybody knew that was his sister.
His house parents at Boys Town remember Dan's fondness for his sister.
Halloween, I wonder what she's going to go as for Halloween or Christmas.
There you go.
Megan Weber is now 4 years old. She even has a little sister, almost 2, who Dan has never seen or met. Dan asked the court to allow him visitation with Megan, and the court ordered it. 1 hour a month appealed the order.
What are you so scared of? What's he gonna do? What's the worst? 1 hour could lead to unsupervised visitation. Then would Megan not come home one day? Would we find her in a ditch? This kid is dangerous.
Why do you want to see your little sister bad enough to sue your parents?
She's my sister. I mean, she's my family. I haven't had any brothers or sisters all my life. And then finally, when I have a sister, 5 months later, all this happens.
Some people watching this might think that you're only pursuing this, trying to see Megan, because you want to get back at your parents.
I really don't care what my parents do right now. They've started their new life, and I'm starting mine.
Is Dan Weber a dangerous young man, or is he just a normal teenage boy who made some mistakes while trying to grow up? Why did you take him, Agnes?
Oh, I love him.
His grandmother is just one of half a dozen people who told us Dan has never been a problem.
Dan never acted up.
Even though he dropped out of school, he's studying to get his high school equivalency diploma, and he's working full-time at a hotel laundry service.
He gave me no reason not to trust him.
The deputy county attorney agrees.
He was being a very good kid. He was following the rules. He'd been participating in therapy. He'd been doing everything the court had asked of him.
This may all be true, but kids have been known to act one way in public and another way with their parents. But could Diane Weber be right about her son? Are there secrets lost in this family's past that can explain what happened to this mother and son?
Somebody's lying here. I know. Diane. That's why
You or Dan are lying.
So the question is, who's lying, who's telling the truth? When we come back, the other side of the story. We're going to hear from kids from Dan's class who say they probably did or did not do some of the things that Dan did, like steal the car, all that sort of things. But secrets will come out. Stay with us. This is not the first time Ken and Diane Weber had any problems with their son Dan. Remember, he was a troubled kid growing up. He was a teenager. The parents were forced to act like prison guards, searching through pockets, making up rules, being strict parents. You've heard Ken and Diane Weber say that about their son, how he's a troublemaker, and how he was doing all those things. But the son says the parents are lying. There's more to the story than meets the eye. You're about to meet kids who might not doing, who said they may do the things, or did not do the things that Dan did. Once again, here's Ann Curry.
Diane Weber is convinced her son is a compulsive shoplifter who constantly lied to her. Some people might be watching this and thinking, he's probably not telling the complete truth. He probably stole some things he's not admitting to.
When I was younger.
What did you
Like
steal when you were
pencils
younger?
and pens at school, things like that.
Did you steal from stores besides a pack of gum? Ever? Never.
Mm-mm.
So everything you're talking about, the wine, the cigarettes, you purchased all of it.
The cigarettes? No.
So you stole cigarettes.
Right.
Let's go back to the day Dan got caught with his father's car at Kmart when he was 13 years old. This was the first time he did anything wrong?
Pretty much, I feel.
But later in our interview, Dan changed his story.
They knew I had been taking it.
Oh, so this wasn't the first time you took the car?
No.
You took the car a lot?
I remember 5 or 6 times.
And how about that pack of gum he admitted to stealing from Kmart?
I got caught for shoplifting a pack of gum.
That's not true either. This lost merchandise document from Kmart says it wasn't a pack of gum. It was actually 52 packs of gum in multi-packs found stuffed in Dan's pants. But it's still just chewing gum. How unusual was Dan's behavior? To get some answers, we sat down with Dan's former classmates. This group of seniors from Millard High School and their parents.
Did any of you
ever take the parents' car without permission? No one in this group admitted to doing that, but they all said the other things Dan did were quite common. Have you lied?
Yeah.
Have you lied to your parents?
Yes.
Did they know what the lie was afterwards? I mean, did they ever find out?
Oh, yeah.
Based on what this group had read about the case, the majority said Dan's parents overreacted to normal teenage missteps.
The last thing you can be as a parent of a teenager is rigid. Flexibility is the name of the game.
Maybe Dan's behavior was getting out of control in his parents' eyes, and maybe they did just want to scare him by sending him to foster care temporarily. That still doesn't explain how they got to this point. Parents and a child not communicating for 3.5 years.
We have stolen a couple of things from stores. Do you think that justifies what your mother did?
No. I know people have done a lot worse, and their parents don't just throw them away.
This wasn't the first time Dan felt his parents had given up on him.
When you were very young, did you get a lot of attention? Hugs? Kisses?
Not really.
You can't remember a single hug
Mm-mm.
from either parent?
No.
His story is remarkably similar to the way his mother remembers her own childhood.
The word love was never mentioned in my household, and I never got a hug as far as I know. I mean, I have no recollection of any of that.
Diane says there was not enough love in your home for her. She didn't get hugs. She didn't get kisses. She felt she wasn't loved.
Diane had a hard time receiving love.
You hugged her, you kissed her, she just didn't receive it?
She was kind of untouchable. Don't touch me, leave me alone type of a person. Prickly pear.
What really happened between Diane and Dan? To find out, we went back 3 decades to this house in Mapleton, Iowa, where Diane Weber grew up. She was one of 5 children raised by a young divorced mother. Her mother says back then, Diane was the one getting into all the trouble.
She got uncontrollable.
Uncontrollable, you said. The same word she uses to describe Dan.
She was. She actually described you as being a troubled kid. She was my trouble. No, I didn't have any problems.
But Diane admits she wasn't perfect. When she was 15 years old, she got pregnant. She was an unmarried sophomore in high school when she and Ken had Dan.
You broke the biggest rule that there is really for a teenage girl.
Tell everybody, it only takes one time.
Diane says her mother was not supportive of her pregnancy, but Agnes insists she did help Diane.
I was in the delivery room with her, holding her hand while she was having the baby.
She may have been in the delivery room, Diane says, but only to make her daughter feel worse.
While I'm being stitched up after an episiotomy, which I didn't even know what an episiotomy was, just put a couple extra stitches in there so this doesn't happen again. So, supportive? I don't think so.
Oh my goodness. She said a number of things that she says you said.
Oh, no. None of that's true. See, and that's another history Diane has. Way back when she was just a little kindergartner, she would make up stories. Diane was a habitual liar from the time she was little. Relatives have to say something. I mean, they have to say something to make us, to discredit us.
The more we looked into this story, the more confusing things got. From 3 generations of family members, we heard charges and countercharges. We heard graphic stories of brutal beatings, all vigorously denied by those accused. It became almost impossible to figure out the truth about the Webbers.
But 3 years of abandonment.
The deputy county attorney has this theory about what happened with the family.
What the parents have said on the record is their child is dangerous. What the nuances of this case and the undercurrents indicate is that Mrs. Weber is so angry at her family that because he has had contact with them, she's basically disowned her son.
Stevens believes Dan has every right to visit with his sister Megan and is helping him pursue his lawsuit against his parents. She argued his case before the Nebraska Supreme Court.
Are you sure you're not hurting her in the end by robbing her of her possible relationship with her older brother?
What would hurt and confuse her more is to see him an hour a month against our wishes What kind of failure are we sending Megan up for when the court can order her to do something against her parents' wishes?
When Dan turns 19 in another year and a half, the courts cannot force the Webbers to allow Megan to see Dan. His best hope to see his sister is to reconcile with his parents.
I'm willing to. They need to be willing to. I'd like to be able to talk to them, have a relationship with them.
Is there some part of you that wishes that you were still home, that wishes that this never happened?
My dad, everybody used to love my dad, all my friends, because he was the best dad. He bought me a motorcycle, fixed it up for me, let me ride it around.
He says he misses you. He says he remembers great times with you.
Oh, we had a lot of good times together.
And he wishes he could have you back in his life again.
Yeah.
Do you want him back?
If I knew he was well, yes. But at this point, I don't know that. You know, we did have a lot of good times growing up, but we also had a few times where he would look me straight in the eye and lie to me over and over and over again.
In fact, Ken and Diane say if the law would allow them, they would terminate their parental rights.
We've tried to.
Why give up your parental rights?
At least it would get us and our kids out of court. Because we don't.
But the Nebraska Department of Social Services won't let them do that.
If you as a parent decide to have children, you do have a responsibility to care for those children. And as long as you can care for them, you need to be a part of that process. Come around?
But for now, the Webbers say they no longer want to be part of that process. Even though their son hasn't committed any serious crimes, they feel it was just a matter of time.
Those are the things that we tried to avoid by getting him the help when we did. We didn't want to get to that point. We didn't want to have him end up in jail for the rest of his life.
What does it say about your family that you can talk about this with me in front of millions of people, but you can't talk about it with your own mother?
Some people in my family are stubborn.
Have you thought about how to prevent this from happening to your kids?
Sure. I'd let them have their freedom. You know, every kid makes mistakes. And they learn from their own mistakes.
Somehow, Dan may be right here. Every kid makes mistakes, and we have to learn from our mistakes. If we make a mistake, here's one thing. If you make a mistake, here's what you do. You own up to it and apologize. That's what you do. You own up to the mistake and you apologize. You don't just, you have to step up to the plate and say, hey, I made a mistake. I need to own up to it and apologize. Tell the truth. Don't sit there and lie. Like this kid right here. Does he look innocent to you? He didn't look innocent. All he did was just steal a car and pack of chewing gum when he was just in the teens. I mean, 18, that's jail time, not juvie. It's just as simple. It's... I don't know what it's like, but I don't have the words for it. I don't have the words for it. You may remember one of our Throwback Thursdays. We talked about this video right here. One of the videos about a kid who had quite the mouth on a bus. Here's the full video. I'll show you a 4-minute portion of this, but this is the full video. Take a look. Oh, forgot to mention, it was all about him, this kid hugging the child.
Ridiculous. Grow up, Rhonda. Yeah, please come. You're fucking ridiculous.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I said you're fucking Fucking ridiculous.
They're having difficulty.
Fucking film class. Film my fucking bullshit.
It's a crazy situation, man. It's like he's going all violent and crap. He's trying to kill people.
Yeah, it's called fuck you and your bullshit.
Yeah, what's really going on out there?
My name is fuck you and your bullshit.
It's pretty ridiculous.
It's spelled M-A-M-A-T-T space Y-A-T-E-S.
I don't have any, Ellie. They're at camp. Ellie, is Mr. Peterson in the same school that he leaves before we get in, doesn't he? Oh, that's very nice. Thank you.
Folks only sitting there. Hey, nothing. Doesn't matter. Sure told him. Oh, yeah, that's pretty awesome. Stupid. Everything still. Same spot still. There's a wedding behind us. Sitting in the middle of the road. stop's like 3 stops away. We've been... I would be home by now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be home now.
It's for the kids. Same spot still.
I want to go for the record to say we could all be home right now, but Rhonda had to stop the bus because I sat with another student. For the record, just by the way, we could all be home. But
Yes,
me...
Mr. Yates, we all could be home right now if you had moved out there.
Shut your fucking mouth. I am sick of your shit. It has been constant since I've been on this bus. You have targeted me for the stupidest shit. I'm sitting with a student, no problem at all. All these other students sitting with students, you don't have a problem with that. But when I sit with another student, you immediately tell us we can't sit together. You want to explain why? No reason.
No reason.
No reason at all. There's no reason why I can't sit with her. And you can't give one, and you know it. This is a bucket filling my bucket with bullshit, boss. Because you're filling us with shit. How about you tell the PA how much bullshit you're filling us with? I mean, your job is to simply get in a bus and drive us home. But instead, you make it difficult by complaining about everything. Everything. All the other bus drivers you
Young
have...
man, nobody else on this bus needs to be tormented by your language or what you...
No one's being torn on this bus besides you, because you have a problem with everything. No other bus driver has cared.
Apologize to everyone else.
How about you apologize for being a bitch? You take your fucking stupid design jacket and go fucking drive a bus to a juvenile detention center.
In 9 minutes, 30 seconds, so we can say bail behind. I guess there's okay. Her? Yeah, that was pretty funny. Oh, look. Back in your traffic now. Just. There it is.
Bye, man.
Such an awkward angle. Oh, wait. I don't know that. was just a bit silly.
It's common sense. Teach bus driver tells you to do something, you do it. Back in a moment. Finally tonight, we've talked about kids being arrested in schools. I'm gonna show you one that happened 2 days ago, where a middle school student was arrested. What was she arrested for? Watch.
Now to Ramsey Middle School, where for the second time this week at a Fort Smith school, a student has been arrested with a weapon. This time the student is accused of threatening a staff member with a knife. 5 News reporter Morgan Wrigley has been following this story pretty much all day today and has the latest now from Ramsey Middle School in Fort Smith.
Fort Smith Public School police tell us that at the beginning of the school day, a student here at Ramsey Middle School threatened 2 school employees with a kitchen knife. Police say they got a call Tuesday morning that a student was being disruptive. Officers arrived to help and found the student with a kitchen knife.
At that time, our school resource officer was able to disarm the student without any incident and without any injuries.
This is the second time a Fort Smith student has been caught with a weapon on campus since school started. A Northside High School student brought a gun to school last week. Fort Smith Public School Police Department believes these are isolated incidents.
You know, in my years of being here, this is not something that is normal to happen all the time.
But Lieutenant Eric Huber says school safety is not something they take lightly.
We're going to go back, we'll look at this, and we will speak to the staff and see if there's anything that we can do to make things even safer at our schools than what we're already doing.
Fort Smith Public Schools has had school resource officers for years, and they're looking at other options like metal detectors, but Huber says they have to consider the logistics.
A lot of it has to do with manpower, logistics, and how you can deploy those, especially if you have a school that has several entrances.
In the meantime, Huber says they're doing everything in their power to keep schools safe.
We want to encourage our parents to speak to their children about what is right and what is wrong to bring to the school, and what items are prohibited to bring to the school, and to be involved and know what their students are bringing to the school as well.
And we do know that Fort Smith Public Schools has a zero-tolerance policy for bringing a weapon to school, and the consequence for that is suspension or expulsion. In Fort Smith, covering news where you live, Morgan Wrigley, 5 News.
And it's like we've been talking about. You can't bring a gun to school. Period. Here's a final one that happened 5 months ago. A 14-year-old student was arrested for allegedly assaulting a teacher. I mean, assault is a real thing. I mean, assault with a deadly weapon, assault and battery is a real thing. I mean, in the state of Texas, you have the right to press charges with someone for assault and battery.
Well, new tonight, a student has been arrested from Alderwood Middle School accused of assaulting and injuring an educator on Wednesday.
The school district put out a statement saying that the woman was sent to the hospital and is now recovering at home. Fox 13's Jennifer Dowling is live now with the details on what the district is saying, what students are saying about the reported assault. Jen?
Good evening. Well, students tell me that a fellow classmate lashed out at a para-educator following a lunch period. They tell me that she was either kicked or pushed during this assault.
But it didn't shock me as much as I feel like it should have.
As word spreads about the student arrested from Alderwood Middle School, local Edmonds School District graduate Jadon Coulier says middle school students district-wide are talking about it, including his brother.
He came to me with his phone, he opened his opening, he's like, hey, have you seen this?
Now a college student at U of O, Jadon says he's previously mentored kids in the area through programs like the Boys and Girls Club and wasn't surprised by the report of violence.
I'm involved with like a lot of the youth here. I used to work at the Boys and Girls Club, all the Boys and Girls Club here. And just last year, there's another incident too where like a kid who's like very, very present in my life, he was getting beat up at this school too. And it was a frequent thing.
A 7th grader who goes to AMS talked off camera, saying that after the accused student struck the educator, she, quote, went flying. We also talked to the grandfather of a student. He called the situation, quote, super disturbing, and said his grandson told him the teacher had been pushed down the stairs or near the stairs. The details of the assault are unclear. The district declined an interview, releasing this statement saying, we are grateful the Alderwood Middle School staff member injured by a student on Wednesday was released from the hospital last night and is recovering at home. The student involved was arrested and emergency expelled from school. We want to thank the nearby staff who intervened to call the situation and called 911. No other students or staff were hurt. The incident took place on Wednesday at the end of one of the lunch periods. No weapons were involved.
I always tell my kids that violence is it's never the way to get things done. You can always have a discussion with somebody, express how you're feeling.
Jadon believes that without an emotional outlet, kids will lash out. He believes incidents of violence are increasing.
I remember so much violence when I was in middle school, because like I said, it's too frequent of a thing.
And I reached out to the Edmonds Education Association. A representative there tells me that paraeducators, like this woman was, are not represented by the union, so they will not be representing her in this situation. Reporting live in Snohomish County, Jennifer Dowling, Fox 13 News.
And it's what it's like. I mean, you can't be arrested for assault and battery. That's how it was. It's just basically how it was. I'll see you next time on the next Throwback Thursday.